What if Yuji and Yuta were brothers? What if they had all that blood relation and everything else like that, you were to get in an actual family bond and were together for a majority of the entirety of JJK's story? How will this affect and change the entirety of the course and story of all of JJK and alter specific events to really change the story in very dramatic ways? I just want to see exactly what would happen in this situation. So follow me along exactly what my thought process would be if this actually were to have happened in the actual story. So to really get it all started off and beginning, we have to actually have it be where Yuta is born to Yuji's parents. 2 years before Yuji's born, the same timeline, he's going to be the exact same age and everything else like that. But I am going to only change the fact that now his parents are Yuji's parents. And when Yuji's born, the same thing exactly happens there where Kenjaku ends up taking over control of Yuji's mom's body and ends up making like Yuji the same way that he is with that insane amount of strength and everything else like that, just because that is so cool. And it's just going to be such a more interesting way to make this story entirely. Also, to really keep continuing it on with exactly what I want to do with this story, I'm going to at least have it to be where Yuta and Yuji are raised in the same area that Yuta was raised in originally, just strictly due to the fact of I want Yuta to still know who Rika was and still have that relationship with Rika. So he still ends up getting Rika after and like later on in the story when like she eventually turns into the queen of all cursed spirits and everything else like that. And that doesn't really change because it's just such a cool story. It's just such a cool, very plot convenience and everything else like that. So I just want to keep that in the same order. I would eventually have it be where eventually when like Rika comes along and Gojo is called over to go figure out exactly what's going on with his cursed spirit and finds Yuta and everything else like that and does the exact same thing there where it's him vouching for Yuta and everything else like that and keeping Yuta alive. They end up taking Yuji along with them to Jujutsu Tech. So they actively really stay the exact same way. They stay together because Yuta's not going to ever leave Yuji alone by himself. Because I would have to say that most likely by this point, Yuji's grandfather would need to die for the story to keep going on in the best way possible. So if we do just have it be like that and have Yuji end up going to them with them in the same way and ends up going with Yuta to Jujutsu High and everything else like that and actively meeting all the people like Inunaki and Maki and everything else like that, meeting Gojo and all of those people, I would see him being able to really grow extremely well in so many capabilities just due to the fact that he's able to train with Gojo so much earlier and so much faster in so many different ways that it just makes it so much better. I would also like to just preface this by saying Yuji's obviously going to be learning curse techniques and everything else like that, learning how to use cursed energy and a lot of other things simply due to the fact of Yuta's not going to just let him, like now that they know about this, let Yuji just be walking around not knowing how to do anything. And obviously with his strength and everything else like that, it just really makes it so much better because Yuji's already an insane monster in all forms of the matter. He's already an insane just fighter and everything else like that. So both of them are just basically out here able to do a lot of things that no one was ever going to expect and everything else like that. So while Gojo's able to teach everything like he would be able to, he's teaching Yuji how to fight, how to actually fight completely, not just throw punches around willy-nilly. He's actually teaching them how to really do a lot of the things, and they still end up giving Yuta katana, which I would say that Yuji would probably pick one up too, just because he adores his brother so much, and his brother's just so strong, so I would really see that happening. Eventually, when we do get to the point where Geto comes along and tries grabbing Rika in the same way that he does, Yuji and Yuta would both be in that place. They would both be there, meaning when Inunaki and like Maki and everybody else comes, that just to make sure like everything is safe. I see it going along the lines of something where Yuji and Yuta are able to use reverse curse techniques to actively heal any of the people that are injured. And then both of them would just rage out. Both of them would just completely and immediately rage out. They would go in and deal with Geto to such a brutal extent. I would say maybe he lives, but there's literally a 50-50 chance on them letting him live. But either way, he ends up dead, whether it's by Gojo's hand or just by those two complete monsters' hands. And obviously, I'm going to kind of leave it the same way where those events afterwards kind of go the same way. But obviously, he keeps Rika and everything else like that because I'm pretty sure he keeps Rika anyways. Like he gets like that clone, whatever it is. But he ends up doing all that same things. But I also do not see him actually ending up leaving Jujutsu High afterwards. I see him staying with his little brother and everything, kind of just making sure that he's safe and things like that. So when Yuji eventually is told to like go to this school to grab this cursed object and figures out that it's still not going to be there, just because I want to at least have that specific point there where the occult club at the school that Yuji never went to, obviously at this point in time, would still find a third member and do the same thing that they did. I would actively have it to be where Yuji's still going to be, this time he's going to actively be forced to end up eating Sakuna's finger. I only have this being like this because it would honestly make the story so much more interesting if he actively just does eat it, because now these two brothers are quite literally the biggest problems that any sorcerer has to deal with. Anybody has to deal with, because it's just one of those things like, what are you supposed to do in this circumstance? So after that, I see Yuta obviously vouching for Yuji, and most people trust Yuji, like Yuta now, and everyone knows Yuji, so they're not going to just let him die off bat. And then I see obviously Gojo vouching for him, and anybody else that has met him vouching for him, because like obviously during the night parade, whatever, everyone saw Yuji just being able to save and help so many people. So they obviously know what's going on. They know exactly what's going on, what's up, and everything else like that. So they're not gonna let this kid die just because of something that he had to do. So they're good. They're all straight on everything else that. Obviously, now we can skip over like just them meeting Noir, because most of that kind of changes where like Yuji's not really involved because he already knows everything in there. So he just basically goes in with Nobara the same way, but it's not really much of a big problem there. And then when we get to things like the prison incident, they can easily deal with that. I would really see Yuta being around there with them, just simply due to the fact of he's not going to let his brother go into this alone, especially if like Yuji is like told, oh yeah, there's might be like a special grade or something in there. So there's absolutely no possibility of Yuji actively ending up turning into Sakuna, dying and killing himself the same way that he did, because Yuta's there to protect him. Yuta's make sure that everything there doesn't happen the same way that it does, because he's there. He's able to deal with a special grade fairly, not easily, but he's able to just really come there, teach these kids how to do a lot of these things and really help them out, so they're not in any much as danger. And the only reason that he let them come is because Yuji wasn't gonna not go even still. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows why they sent him there, because basically the same thing happened with his brother, where they didn't trust him completely in the beginning, so they were just trying to kill him a little bit and everything else like that. So they know exactly what's going on. They just know, deal with it, leave it alone. Not really big of a problem. But as time goes on, most of the events that would have happened while Yuji was kind of dead don't really happen the same exact way. So I don't really see it being a lot of those things. Maybe Nanami comes around, asks for Yuta and Yuji's help in any circumstance, and that's the way that we get Yuji still involved in a lot of those events. When if it does happen like that, then all of those events go so much easier. Those two just dominate almost anything that they're going to even get near. And especially with Yuji already having such a good understanding of cursed energy and cursed techniques, he's already going to be having a ball. And eventually, I honestly see him being able to utilize Sakuna in a lot better ways, because he doesn't have to worry about specifically, oh, this is happening, or like things like that. Because he at least always has somebody to watch his back that he knows he can trust completely. Yes, he trusts Megami. Yes, he trusts Nobara. But with his brother being right next to him, he's always right there, safe, sound, and understanding exactly this is what needs to be done. So a lot of the other events that go along through season 1 and all the way into the manga get done so much easier, because those two are probably going to be inseparable. With their entire history and everything else like that, those two are inseparable. And especially once we get to like the Goodwill games and like the Goodwill event, we see Yuta being there. which already changes the course of that so much. Meaning they probably like the actual like cursed spirits probably don't even get far enough to get all as many cursed rooms as they were able to get. I see Yuji able to deal with any of the cursed spirits that they try sending in there so much easier. There's not going to be any need for them, well, any of the students that from the other school to even be bothered trying to kill Yuji because they all know him. They're not going to kill somebody that they know and trust already, even if the principal is trying to go over here saying this entire mission is just to kill Yuji and everything else like that. They all refuse. They all completely just refuse that statement. So it's really just an actual normal event until the cursed spirits come around and Yuji's just there. So it's not really a problem for him either way. Even if Yuta was there, at this point, Yuji doesn't really have a problem dealing with special grades anymore. He's able to deal with them fairly well just because of the training that he has had up until that point. So those things go so much more differently than they would have ever gone in canon. And as I'm saying, a lot of these things really just take those little nitpicks that you would have ever never thought end up happening just because Yuji's just so much stronger. I wouldn't say, and I wouldn't know exactly if he gets his own like domain expansion and things like that, because I wouldn't even know exactly what that would be. There is a very good possibility that with his understanding of all of these things, he's actually able to utilize Sakuna's abilities way faster than he normally ever could. And actively he's able to incorporate Sakuna way better because that's basically what he was made for anyways. So it could honestly just be one of those situations, but who really knows? But my question is, what do you guys think would have happened if these two were brothers? How do you think the story would have changed, and exactly where do you think the story would have went afterwards? Into everything else, where do you think it would have went? Because it is really such an interesting story. It's such something that you would really have to be like, exactly what would have happened? You actually have to be asking yourself these really interesting questions. So give me your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. If you guys do enjoy this kind of content, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you guys can actually be caught up with everything that I do be posting, because I am getting back to posting on a somewhat consistent basis. So please just tell me exactly what you want and I will do it in due time. I might actively end up doing other kind of what ifs on here. Always going to be mostly one shots because I'm not a big fan of doing series formatted what ifs anymore, just because attention span and things like that. But if you guys have any ideas, put it down in the comment section and I might actively end up doing it. But I will see y'all guys in the next video. Peace.